I'm still writing myself. I'm starting to outsource more just because I realized in order to scale and make more money, I have to start outsourcing at some point. I can't be writing for 5 sites. Like if I come to that point,
Yeah.
I'll be overloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I find like a keyword, well, there's two types of articles. There's commercial, which are the typical reviews, and informational, which are more educational, not really promoting a specific product. Lately, I've been going for the more educational articles because they have generally less competition. They're more fun to write about, things like that. So when I do find a keyword, I try to think like, what is a user actually looking for when they type this into Google? Like, what's the actual answer they want? Why are they asking this question? So I try to understand the problem that they're having first of all. I just don't want to pick a keyword and just start typing. I want to understand the problem that the reader has, and then I use keywords everywhere in Google where I find out what other related searchers are closely related to this search. So the first stage is like research, understanding, and then finding other related keywords that would fit my main article. Once I feel like I have enough research, I'll put everything into notes and I'll convert the notes into an article and break it up into subheadings and things like that.
Okay. So pretty straightforward. It's like writing a
Yeah.
research paper, do a little research.
Mhm.
It sounds like you don't necessarily write as you're researching, right? So you put together your research notes, then you synthesize later, right? Is that
Yeah. I usually
okay?
put everything into notes and then convert the notes to an
Okay.
article. I might sometimes write as I go researching,
Okay.
um, but it's not like my primary way of doing it.
Cool. And I want
Yeah.
to highlight this for everybody because I run across a lot of people who they're like, how do I write? I write really slow. And they're like, hey, I've been putting in, I don't know, like 20 hours a week. And they're like, I can only get like one article out per 20 hours. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you're doing something wrong. You're getting in your own way somehow. So I think a lot of times people end up doing research and writing and editing all at the same time. So it just bogs down their process. And sometimes they don't finish. So that's
Yeah.
the worst part. But yeah, it's perfect the way you're doing it. It's kind of what I do. I don't write myself, but when I do write certain things, not affiliate content, I'll try to research ahead of time and then write it later and then even edit it later after that.
Yeah.
So at least my brain, it needs to like shift to different
Yeah.
activities. So,
That makes sense.
and then as far as like the length of the content, how long is the content?
It depends on the topic. I know it depends is a answer that's often given in this industry.
Yeah.
For if I'm, answering a general question that someone has, that's a basic question. 1,200 words I try to shoot for. Some articles I get a lot of traffic from aren't even that long. Sometimes they're 800 words and I get a good amount of traffic from them just
Mm-hmm.
because there's very little competition. If it's a really in-depth, more complicated topic, or it's talking about different related things very closely, 2,500 words would probably be my upper limit. But it really depends on the topic and the complexity. People say longer content. Some people say longer content is better, but I just try to cover the topic thoroughly and just be really helpful and not add unrelated topics or stretch my content out just to fill a word count.
Yep. And I think, well, I've definitely been guilty of this because there were a couple case studies, or at least a little bit of a study where it was like longer content pulls in more keywords, which is true, but
Yeah.
the consequence is if you're fluffing it up too much, it's a
Yeah.
harder to read and people don't get what they're looking for. They don't solve the problem, to your point
Yeah.
earlier. So, okay. So it sounds like generally you're aiming for over 1,000,
Yep.
for most content. And then for more in-depth, 2,500 is sort of the upper limit.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Exactly.
have there been a few articles where you pushed it and you were like, hey, 5,000 words for this because there's so many products or something like that?
I don't think I've ever written a 5,000 word article. My longest is probably in the 3,000 range.
Okay.
Another point to finding low competition keywords is you can rank without having to do so much work into your article. Like writing 3,000 word articles is pretty draining, like for
Yeah.
me.
It's a lot of words. Yeah. Especially when hey, I could have done two for the price of
Breaks.
one,
Yeah.
1,500 words there. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you mentioned subheadings and some other formatting topics. How do you approach the subheadings?
If someone has like a question about a particular topic, I might just take that question, put it into the subheading, and just talk about that question, that sub question specifically in that section.
Perfect.
It's kind of hard to describe how I do subheaders. I used to use my gut about what specific topic would they be looking for in this overall article.
Sure.
And make a section out of that. Yeah.
I think one of my very first articles that has been like the most profitable, like at the beginning, ongoing, and that sort of thing. Literally, I didn't know anything about the product, so I like listed all the questions I would have asked. Nowadays, you can go to Google and find the featured questions, the related questions, and just go through those. But that's a great way to organize content overall. So, and I suspect you probably have just a normal hierarchy within the article where you're like, here's features, here's some of the features, and then maybe that's the features are H2, subheading tag, and then H3 would be each one of the actual features for the product line, I guess.
Yeah, if I'm doing a review, I generally have a general template, just a quick overview, and then below that I go more in depth into the specific features.
Okay, gotcha. And moving on, well, anything else on content that you want to sort of highlight? Any interesting things that you do that maybe other people don't?
Yeah, one trick I find, I think finding research papers about the topic you're writing about is very helpful. A lot of people don't take the time to find like PDFs that have all this research already done. I think that can be really powerful. And if you link to it, that's probably helps SEO a lot too. So if you're writing articles, just see like what kind of research like professional research that people have already done for that topic. Because you might be surprised, like there's all sorts of studies done about products and like weird studies in general people do about certain things that you can mention and reference in your article.
How do you search for those? Do you have any footprints that you look for to find such PDF research papers?
Yeah, so I'll type in my general keyword, and then I'll put in quotes like study or do site:/.gov where I can find government studies.
Okay.
And little tricks like that. Sometimes I'll put PDF in the search query too to find PDFs because PDFs are full of like just really good information.